If you have dried chilies, garlic, coriander seeds, caraway seeds, cumin seeds, olive oil, cauliflower, half and half, vegetable stock, and almonds, then you have the makings for a homemade harissa and a really easy soup. For me, harissa is a must-have refrigerator staple. I keep it in my refrigerator all the time. It is a beloved North African paste that is traditionally used in couscous or alongside breads. But for me, I love to swirl it into my soups and stews. Now, you can absolutely buy harissa paste at the grocery store. It's readily available. But if you know me, I'm going to recommend that you make your own for a couple of reasons. One, it's really easy. It's probably better than anything you can buy, and you probably have everything that you already need on hand. The other thing that I like about making my own is that I can control the heat, and I'm a little bit wimpy when it comes to my spices, so I use primarily mild dried peppers. I'll throw in a few hot dried peppers, and then for a really nice smoky flavor, I'll throw in some smoky like ancho chilies. It's a wonderful flavor, and that's the best part about it is that you can make it yourself, control the heat, and it's absolutely delicious. But first, before we dive in, if you're just here for the recipe, it's absolutely fine. You can click that timestamp below. It'll take you right to the recipe. And while you're here, let me know, do you use harissa paste? How do you like to use it? Do you buy it from the store or make your own? Now, as I mentioned, this recipe is really easy, but it does take a little bit of time because you have to soak all the peppers in hot water for several hours. So let me show you how this comes together. First, we'll start with 4 to 5 dried New Mexico chilies, 3 to 4 hot chilies, and 2 to 3 ancho chilies. Simply crack open the chilies, shake out the seeds, break them apart, and place them into a large bowl. Cover the chilies with hot boiling water, set them aside, and let them sit for 2 to 4 hours. After the chilies have had plenty of time to soak, it's time to toast our spices. We're going to place 3 teaspoons of coriander seeds, 2.5 teaspoons of caraway seeds, and 2.5 teaspoons of cumin seeds in a dry frying pan. We're going to simply toast them over a high heat for about 1 minute. Once the seeds are fragrant, we're going to remove them from the heat and place them into a mortar and pestle. Now, this is the old school way to do it, so if you don't have a mortar and pestle, it's not a problem. You can simply use an electric spice grinder or even a coffee grinder. Just grind it into a fine powder and set it aside. Once that's done, we'll take out a food processor that's been fitted with the blade attachment and we'll make our paste. To do this, we're going to just remove the soaked chilies from the water, tear them apart, and place them into the food processor. Then we'll just add a little bit of the soaking water and we'll start blending the chilies. Blend until they start to break up, and then we'll add 6 cloves of garlic, the juice of 1 large lemon, a half a cup or 125 mLs of olive oil, and a big pinch of salt. Just keep blending in your blender until you have a nice smooth paste. If the paste looks like it's a little too thick, you can just add a little bit more soaking water and puree it again. Once it's done, pour it into a jar with a little bit of extra olive oil and set it aside. So, now that we have this beautiful harissa paste made, we can talk about soup. So anyone who knows me knows I absolutely love soup. And one of my favorite soups to make with harissa paste is this really easy almond cauliflower Moroccan inspired soup. It is super easy to make. It's just a few ingredients. It's almonds, cauliflower, harissa paste, broth, and that's pretty much it. Now, what I like to do with this one is I like to use orange cauliflower. It's not necessary. If you have white, just go ahead and use white. But the orange cauliflower gives it kind of a nutty, maybe a kind of like a butternut squash taste. So it gives it a really interesting flavor. So if you have it, use it. So let me tell you how we make this soup. First, we'll start with 1 large head of cauliflower. Cut the cauliflower into florets and set it aside. Then slice 1 medium yellow onion in half, discard the skin, and finely dice the onion. This recipe calls for ground cinnamon. However, if you can get your hands on true Ceylon cinnamon sticks, you absolutely should grind your own and give it a try. The flavor is incredible. If you can't, regular cinnamon works just fine. Now, in a dry skillet, we're going to toast 1 1/4 cup of almond slices over a medium heat. Toast them until they're fragrant, maybe about 4 minutes, and then remove the pan from the stove and set it aside. Now, we're going to heat 2 tablespoons of olive oil in a large stock pot over a medium-high heat. Once the oil is hot, add your onions and sauté until they're really soft, about 5 to 7 minutes. Then add a half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ground cumin, a half a teaspoon of ground coriander, and 1 to 2 tablespoons of harissa paste. You just want to stir this for 1 to 2 minutes to make sure it's incorporated. Once that's done, then you're going to add your cauliflower, 1.5 cups of vegetable stock, 1 cup of toasted almonds, and that's it. Give it a stir, cover, and cook the cauliflower until it's tender for about 20 minutes. While the cauliflower is cooking, we're going to heat the oven to 350 degrees. Using a serrated bread knife, we're going to cut a baguette into uniformly sized bread cubes. Once that's done, we're going to spread them onto a baking sheet, and we want to do it in single layers. We also want to make sure that there is space between the cubes because we're trying to dry them out, and if they're too close together, they will steam. We'll toast the bread cubes in the oven for about 8 to 10 minutes, stir them a few times, and once they're ready, remove them from the oven and set them aside. When the cauliflower is done cooking, we're going to remove it from the stove and we're going to puree the soup with an emulsion blender. Once it's smooth, add a quarter cup of half and half, and if you need to, you can reheat it on the stove. Once it's warmed through, we're going to serve it up. To serve it, we just ladle the soup into bowls, top it with the remaining toasted almonds and the warm bread cubes. And that's it. We're done and it's ready to eat. And of course, we can't forget the wine. With this one, I would probably do a buttery Chardonnay or maybe even a Gewürztraminer. I love to say that word. It's a little tricky to say. It's also fun to say, but it is easy to drink. I like it because it is sweet, and I typically don't like sweet wines, but with this one, it works really well with the spiciness. You get that yin and yang, and they play really well together. It has a nice aromatic flavor too, but the reason it's sweet is because it's high in alcohol, but it's low in acidity, and that brings out the sweetness, and it really is good with the soup. So that would be my pick. And there you have it. Let me know what you think. And if you're someone like me that loves to exploit everyday pantry items to find interesting things to make and create, then don't forget to subscribe. Just hit that bell below so you don't miss a thing. Until next time.